When I started this sheet mulching experiment, I honestly didn't know what to expect. You always see people online claiming that sheet mulching can transform terrible soil into rich, beautiful, dark earth practically overnight. And I've always wondered if that was really true, or if it was just another gardening myth. So I decided to run a real test on the absolute worst part of my yard, and today I'm going to show you exactly what happened over the course of 30 days. Let me start by saying this: the soil I used was bad, not needs improvement bad. I'm talking dry, compacted, cracked, lifeless dirt. If you tried to push your finger into it, you'd swear it was concrete. No worms, no organic matter, nothing growing except maybe the occasional stubborn weed. It was basically the perfect candidate for a dramatic before and after test. I wanted to test sheet mulching in its purest, simplest form, exactly how most people would do it at home. Here's what I did. I laid down a layer of cardboard, covered it all with a thick layer of mulch made from wood chips and shredded leaves, and watered it really well. And that is basically all there is to sheet mulching. After that, I didn't touch it other than giving it water when it needed it. No turning, no poking holes, no fluffing anything. I wanted to see what nature could do on its own. The transformation didn't start immediately, of course. At the end of week 1, everything looked pretty much the same on the surface. The mulch was still fluffy, the cardboard was damp but fully intact, and the soil underneath looked exactly like it did on day 1. But there were 2 small signs of change. First, the soil was holding moisture much better than before. And second, I found one lone worm when I peeled back a corner. Just one. But considering that the starting soil had none at all, that one worm felt like a tiny victory. By week 2, things were finally getting interesting. When I lifted the mulch, I noticed the bottom layer of cardboard was starting to show early signs of softening. Not breaking down yet, but definitely not as stiff. And this time, I found several worms around the edges of the cardboard, along with a noticeable increase in moisture. There was also a thin white layer of fungal growth beginning to form on the underside of the mulch and on the cardboard. That's the exact kind of fungus you want to see in healthy soil. It told me the soil food web was waking up. The soil itself was still pretty compacted at this point, but I could feel a change. Instead of feeling like a brick, it gave just a little when I pressed on it. It wasn't plant-ready yet, but it was clearly improving. Real quick, if you're enjoying this experiment so far, go ahead and hit the like button. It helps this video reach more people, and it lets me know you want more real garden tests like this one. And please make sure you subscribe to the channel to keep getting gardening tips and tricks. Now let's talk about week 3, because this is when things really started to take off. On day 21, the mulch layer had noticeably settled. When I pushed it aside, I could see that the bottom of the wood chips had darkened and begun to bind together with visible fungal threads. The cardboard was officially in the soggy paper stage. When I pulled gently, parts of it tore into flakes instead of lifting as a sheet. The soil underneath was the biggest surprise. I could actually push my finger into it, slowly, but I could do it. That was impossible on day 1. The soil smelled different too. Instead of that dry, dusty scent, it had a slightly earthy smell, the kind that tells you microbial life is returning. The whole sheet mulch system was warm to the touch, which meant decomposition was actively happening. This was the first moment where I thought, wow, this is really working. Then came day 30, the big reveal. I lifted the mulch and immediately noticed how much darker everything had become. The cardboard was at least 70% decomposed, not completely gone, but soft enough that plant roots could easily push through it. In some sections, it had totally integrated into the soil below. The number of worms was wild. I wasn't expecting that many in 30 days, but when I gently scratched the soil surface, worms were just there. Not overflowing, but consistently present. That's a big deal for soil that started with 0. The fungal growth was also much more established, forming white threads that bound soil particles and mulch together. And the soil itself, this is where sheet mulching truly shined. It had gone from lifeless dust to something that actually resembled garden soil. It wasn't perfect, of course. You wouldn't mistake it for a raised bed full of rich compost. But it was crumbly. I could form a loose ball with it, which is a clear sign of developing structure. The color had shifted from a dull gray to a noticeably richer brown. Even after 3 warm days with no watering, the soil underneath was still moist. That alone makes sheet mulching worth doing. So the question is, could you plant into it after 30 days? Surprisingly, yes, depending on what you're planting. Shallow-rooted plants like lettuce, peas, or herbs would do just fine. Deep-rooted or heavy-feeding vegetables would still struggle a bit, so I'd give it another few weeks or plant into a mound of compost on top. But overall, sheet mulching made a huge difference in a very short time. And this is the part that shocked me most. All of this happened with no fertilizer, no turning, no digging, no worms added, no compost tea, nothing. Just cardboard, compost, mulch, and water. If it can transform soil this badly compacted in 1 month, imagine what it can do in a season. Was it worth it? Absolutely. In just 30 days, I got better moisture retention, better soil structure, less compaction, fewer weeds, more soil life, and a huge jump in long-term soil fertility. And I barely had to lift a finger after setting it up. If I were to do it again, I'd make 2 small changes. I'd add a little more nitrogen by either doubling the compost layer or adding some greener material under the mulch. And I'd start earlier in the season so the microbes could work even faster in warm conditions. But even without those tweaks, I'm incredibly happy with how things turned out. Before I wrap this up, if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect moment so you don't miss the upcoming updates. And if you found this helpful, please give us a like. Looking at the before and after side by side is honestly a little crazy. Day 1 was hard, pale, dehydrated soil with 0 signs of life. Day 30 was moist, darker, looser, biologically active soil with fungi, worms, and developing structure. The cardboard layer was breaking down beautifully, and the mulch was starting to become part of the soil system. So that's my full 30-day sheet mulching test. I hope it gives you a real, honest look at what this method can do in a short period of time. If you found this helpful, give us a like and please subscribe for more real-world garden experiments, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and happy growing.